Ubisoft's premier tactical 5-on-5 shooter that has helped the company tremendously for years has recently had video after video come out saying that Siege is dying, or that Ubisoft doesn't know what they are doing, or that the game isn't what it used to be. In the comments of these videos, you'll see massive creators agreeing with the complaints, agreeing with the hate on Ubisoft, and the interest in Siege on YouTube and Twitch has been on a downturn. So, what happened? Siege is a massive game that's been around for years. Before we talk about the current problems, we have to set a baseline for how the game's been handled and where it has flourished before and see why it's in the state it is now. Ubisoft would present a tactical, realistic game during E3 in 2014 that promised a highly tactical and destructive environment in an online 5v5. This visually stunning trailer even matched the gameplay showed during the event. To say the least, this captured the attention of many gamers and created a good bit of hype for the game. The community's love for the game would continue to be fostered through the beta, and Ubisoft did a great job of listening to the community. For example, remember the lighting for that E3 trailer and gameplay? Well, it was removed because players had an extremely hard time seeing hostile players in it and complained about it. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege would go on to release December 1st, 2015 with 11 maps and 20 operators. Ubisoft would continue the support for the game by adding expansions, the first of which was Operation Black Ice in February 2016. This set a precedent of expansions releasing 2 operators and a map, even if Yacht is the worst map in the game and it's still bad today, and some gameplay additions to polish the game. The next expansion would introduce an operator that was so incredibly overpowered at the time, it makes you wonder who has final say on game balance. His special ability was being able to put a ballistic shield on his gun, and it wasn't a papier-mâché plate we all know and love today. When Blackbeard released, he had a shield on his rifle with 600 HP. That's more health than your entire team has combined, put in front of your face. More cosmetics are added during this time, like headgear and weapon charms. The next season had 2 more operators and another map, and more attachments to spend your renown on. Ubisoft also finally added an anti-cheat system. This system would totally catch all of the cheaters, and Siege would never have any issues with hackers again. Next season, we got a map, 2 operators, and a map rework. Yes, old Ubisoft could give a map rework and a new map at the same time. But we had the first removal of an attachment in this game's history. The SMG-11 would have its ACOG removed. A sad day in the Rainbow community that would never have to be repeated again. Velvet Shell would revamp a lot of the menus and rank icons, add Jackal and Mira, and add even more bugs. The game had a massive bug and glitch problem, so Operation Health came to the rescue. No new operators or maps would be added this season for the first time, and instead the season would focus on fixing bugs, adding alpha packs, and removing Ash's hitbox. Esports would also be on the rise for the game. The next expansion would add 3 operators to make up for Operation Health not adding any, and a map no one cared about, and a dark day for Siege. Ubisoft would remove an attachment for the first... Wait, this has already happened. What happened again? But for Bandit and Jaeger. A new dark day for the community that would never happen again has occurred. The ability to have 2 drones on the map was added, so your dance circles around defenders could be even bigger. Next season, Tower got added, and a map like Yacht is universally hated. The first universally affecting off would be added with Dokkaebi being able to call all the defenders at once. Man, they really should just turn their phone's vibration off. That'd be a quick solution. Then Siege, reaching its probable peak in relevancy, would introduce Operation Chimera, which would introduce the newest wave of overpowered operators, Lion and Finka. Lion made it so defenders couldn't move without giving the attackers wall hacks, and Finka made it so attackers had no recoils. What a perfect combination. Who balances these things? The first and best limited time mode was added that would distract you from getting railed by Lion and Finka in ranked and casual. Outbreak. Outbreak was loved by the community. A horde-like terrorist hunt with aliens. Sure, it was incredibly unrealistic and nothing like the original vision for the game, but I'm sure the next season will head us back to that tactical, realistic setting, right? No. Next season would introduce holograms and sci-fi lasers and a defensive operator with an LMG and an ACOG. Oh, but Jaeger was too much? Bulletproof cameras were added though. That's a consolation, right? No Jackal mode, otherwise known as the pick and ban system, was also added to the game. The next expansion would start the trend many to see be the issue with the game. For the first time since Operation Health, there was no new map. Rather, Hereford Base would be reworked and 2 operators added. This created a new trend for Ubisoft of reworking maps rather than adding new content. However, next season would add a new map and 2 new operators. Yes, this game has a lot of operators. Year 4 would add 8 new ops and the last new map as of today in the game's history, Outback. The other 3 operations of the year would fall into the rework trend. On the brighter side of things, Smurf mode was added, as well as the competitive prize pool getting up to $2 million. Reverse friendly fire was added, and the cash grab pass was also added. Unranked was also added, and a champion rank was added to expand the rank ladder to climb. And a Swedish chap on Twitter would do the unthinkable and start a movement to add an ACOG to a weapon, specifically the Boss G. Maestro and Ash would lose their ACOGs in a new Dark Day for Siege that has never happened before. Hold on, I think I've seen this beat. Casual changed to quick match. Year 5 would see another hit to added content. For the first 2 seasons, the normal 2 operators, including the Kool-Aid Man, were added, but for the second 2, you would only see 1 operator added a season. Still no new maps either. More gadgets attackers had to shoot were added so everyone could play their new favorite point-and-click adventure before engaging enemies. A new ping system was added, and no Outback mode was also added. They reworked the scope system, and a new Dark Day for Siege had come along. Rook and Doc had lost their ACOGs, and a new Darkest Day for the community that has never happened before. How many times do I have to read this lot? A lot of limited time modes were added in between all of this to distract you from the aspects of the game you didn't like, all while you watched your favorite maps get reworked and sometimes ruined. How? And that brings us to where we are today. Now that we have the game's history out of the way, we can finally get into what happened to this beautiful game. Ah, the reworks. A benevolent idea on paper, but one that takes away our favorite maps in practice. Well, yes, some of the reworks have been positive, like the ones on Cafe and Clubhouse, but others, like the ones on Hereford Base and House, have a much more split view in the community. Ubisoft continues to rework fan-favorite maps while leaving disliked ones such as Yacht and Tower untouched. Ubisoft also decided that the casual maps deserve to be changed to better the game and make it more competitive, despite the maps being meant for a casual experience. The reworks also create another issue that plagues the game, being a lack of new content. Reworks create artificial new content where, yes, the content is quote-unquote new and different, but you're losing old maps and operators from before they got reworked. The game is starting to feel stale, especially for players who only play one game mode. You only ever get to see the same maps, and the map ban system exasperates that issue, especially when some maps aren't even reworked into something new, they're just slightly changed. Ubisoft needs to fix this issue if they really want to save the game. Some of the operator reworks don't even fit the characters as well anymore. Like, sure, Tachanka's works out because he uses an old-timey style grenade launcher to fire at people. He still has his turret, but the proposed Blackbeard rework of adding a parrot drone thing makes no sense for his character when, you know, it's always been based around that rifle shield. So instead of balancing the rifle shield that they added so long ago, they're just gonna scrap it and just rework it for just another drone off. This brings us to the way Ubisoft decides to deal with game balance. It's something else, really. Sometimes they listen to the pros and casuals, but sometimes they just make stupid decisions with very little reason. Like when they decided that dead players should be able to control drones and gadgets, and we all remember the powerhouse Lion was when he was released. Every season there are mass calls for buffs and nerfs. Newer operators are much more powerful than older ones, and they're using real money to get a competitive edge. Ubisoft is trying their hardest to move the meta from a gunplay-focused one to an ability-focused one. The strange shift towards a hero shooter in the vein of Overwatch is a blatant disrespect to veteran players who grinded the game for years to learn its ins and outs, and to Tom Clancy, who only ever wrote about tactical, realistic stories and not robotic arm-wielding women who punch holes in walls. Ubisoft has a weird obsession of slightly changing ops in their kits just ever so slightly, constantly, which pisses off players that use those characters as their main. This also makes it harder for returning players to get back into the game as they get to play these ops that they used to love. For example, a lot of players used to love playing Buck. Then he lost his frag grenade, so one of the core strategies that people used with Buck is now gone. Ubisoft decides to make balanced decisions not off win rate a lot of the times, but off pick rate. Example, Ash gets picked a lot, even though Ash's win delta has never been that much higher than your average operator. But because Ash gets picked so much, Ubisoft decides to try to nerf Ash all the time. It should be blatantly apparent that Ubisoft's not the best at game balance and reworking things. It's no secret Ubisoft will do blatant cash grabs. This is overly apparent in Siege, where sure you can overlook the cosmetic packs as that cosmetic, whatever, cosmetic packs. But Ubisoft released a season pass while also having a separate year pass active for operators. 2 subscriptions to Siege at the same time, 2 of them. Not to mention that with less operators as each year passes, makes the season and year passes worth so much less while costing the exact same. Also, all of those new and more powerful operators can be bought with real money, but if you choose to go the free route, well, quote-unquote free, you still gotta buy the game, you're gonna have to grind to get them, after the paid exclusivity time, of course. The cost of Renown for one of those new operators is the cost of all 20 original ops. 20 ops for the price of one. Not to mention that Ubisoft is selling the Outbreak LTM as its own game for full price, $60 for a game that took all the coding and assets and graphics from a game from 2015 and releases it as quote-unquote new. They even took the paid cosmetic packs from the LTM and reintroduced them to the game with no new skins or charms. They made 0 new content in the re-release of the packs. They just want cash for old content because they're releasing the old content as a new game. They also had a point where it was perfectly set up to be paid $100 a year on extra Siege content that you could get for free. And now they've dropped the year pass for the season pass, but that doesn't remove the fact that that still existed at the same time. Same time! It's insane, right? They also have, some pretty, quote-unquote, elite cosmetics that they like to release on top of the, full-price game. You could spend $10 for cosmetics for one operator, just to get some fancy new windscreen that you could only ever see if you're the MVP. This game is extremely glitchy at times. Sometimes you can just vault your way out of the map, others can lag out of the game just by using a castle barricade. Sometimes you fly around like you're an angry wizard in Harry Potter. Some are game breaking, actually a lot are game breaking. Ubisoft struggles to keep this game working and bug free. But hey, a replay mode was added that I didn't mention in the history section. Why did I mention it? Oh well, because it's broken and barely works, so I couldn't count it as a feature, honestly, to add it to the section. Not to mention the number of hackers. It's so bad that there's an entire series on YouTube devoted to watching games to identify hackers. And don't think that you're safe on console. You run into people using mouse and keyboards, and they'll dominate the landscape. BattleEye is a joke and doesn't actually do too much to stop the cheaters. There's even a video where Basically Homeless tried to get banned by BattleEye and he struggled to get it done. He literally reported himself with video evidence and he didn't get banned. It took months for him to get finally banned, and he used hacks upon hacks to rename files, did everything you possibly could think of, and he even asked players in games to, hey, report me, I'm hacking. And it took so long for him to get banned. Ubisoft has such an issue dealing with cheaters and hackers that it's become a meme among the player base, and that's not a good thing. And it gets even worse on console than just the mouse and keyboard users. Some players decide that they want to commit felonies and DDoS accounts, fully shut off people's internet, just to win a game of ranked. Because you can't spell felony without ELO. But it's insane, and Ubisoft doesn't do anything to most of these players. They just kind of get away with committing their felonies. Truly Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege is a game that is in the state that it is now, not because the genre of the game died, or that the community ruined the experience, although they did help that quite a bit. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege is in this state of disinterest and a slow burn towards dying because of Ubisoft mishandling the game, and overall being incompetent developers of the IP. That combination of cheaters, cash grabs, and ignoring fans has come back to bite them, and it's truly sad for those who truly love this game. The players who joined in the early years, seeing Black Ice get added to the game, watching Yacht get added, loving House when it came out, loving every season, have stayed around just to watch their favorite shooter rot away slowly. Ubisoft could still save the game if they invested money into it and, added maps, added new content, but they won't do that. Instead, they'll just move on to the next project. Ubisoft does not care about Siege or its fanbase or any of the community that have formed around the game. They just care about the money. I love Siege as a game and can still have fun on it now, but man, is it not the same. Like, you try to get into a game now and there used to be that special feeling in Siege, and it's just, the feeling's gone. You try to watch videos now and they don't feel the same. You see creators still complaining about it all the time. Siege in its prime was a one-of-a-kind experience that anyone who played it will truly keep inside of them forever. This brings us to the end of the video. If you've enjoyed the video, drop a like, drop a subscribe. It's free, helps out the channel a lot. You'll see an iCard in the top right if you enjoyed this format of video. That will bring you to the first episode of this What Happened series. If you have a suggestion for a game you want me to cover during this, go ahead, drop it down in a comment below. And if you got any information that you think that I got wrong, or you just want to have a conversation about this video or Siege in general, go ahead, drop it down below. I'll be trying to make sure to respond to everyone. I spent hours researching this, and if I missed out on something, let me know. I'm human. I'm sure there's a mistake somewhere here. I probably said something wrong too. Who knows? It's hard to tell. Also, most people who watch this series aren't subbed, so you should probably do that. I've been Harpo though, and I thank you all for watching.